I'm Dr. Barry, licensed psychologist, and here we talk about true crime and psychology. Thank you so much for joining. Let's hop right into today's topic. Let's go. Welcome. I like to split up videos anytime that I'm talking about a case that involves the loss of a child or children, because I totally get it if those cases are heavy. Please know that any case I cover, my goal is to figure out what can we learn from this? What can we get from it? And then hearing about these two recent cases that they haven't went to trial yet. So these individuals are technically innocent until proven guilty. Both cases I'm going to talk about, the parents admitted to doing what they're charged with. And so it's just I'll be interested to see how this plays out moving forward. And I totally get the heaviness of this. So for the very first case, I saw pictures of a missing 4-year-old coming across my timeline over on Facebook. And sometimes when I see those pictures, sometimes just get a gut feeling. I didn't have a good feeling about it. And I think days go by, and eventually the mother admits that about a month or so ago, after she reported her daughter missing, that her daughter had actually died a month prior. And this was, and I believe it's the father. Let me look at my details. So yes, the parents of Javeayah Harris confessed to unaliving her. As investigators expanded search efforts, they were including boats. They were trying to find this girl, and there are ongoing efforts to attempt to recover her remains, so they can attempt to try to get justice for this little 4-year-old. During this time, the mother, she has had another child. So she was around 39 months pregnant. Sorry, not months, 39 weeks pregnant when her first child was unalived, and that child is in the custody of a safe family member. And so this case comes out of South Carolina, and there were all these search and rescue efforts that went forward to attempt to find the child that was reported missing. There have been reports, so the mom, I guess, admitted that the child's behavior was too much for her to manage, and that the father is allegedly the one that caused the ultimate harm, but the mother did nothing to stop it. And so that's where two things can be true at the same time, where they're going to charge both people. While she might deny delivering any type of fatal blow or anything like that, she did not stop what happened. And she attempted to cover it up by lying and saying that the child was missing. And all these efforts went into attempting to find the child, and come to find out that she was deceased. And so my heart goes out to the family. And 3 and 4 years old can be a time when kids, they're learning their independence. They're starting to say no. I don't even start assessing kids for any type of mental health condition until 6 years old. Sometimes I will consult if there's a 5-year-old that's having major aggression, major issues in the home, at school. Sometimes I will do a consult, but when kids aren't okay, when changes are happening, when things are going on, kids will often engage in behaviors. And so parents having age and developmentally appropriate expectations are important. And so if a kid sees a cookie or candy, they might take it without permission. Like that's something a child might do. And that's where, if I, as a parent, if my child does that, I'm going to have a conversation. I'm going to redirect the behavior. And then also, as the adult, I'm not going to leave candy and cookies in reach of the child. I'm not going to tempt the child and be like, so 4-year-olds aren't supposed to have self-control. They're supposed to have difficulty sitting for long periods of time. And I've sometimes seen people go overboard and cause harm, but the kid was just being a kid and there was absolutely nothing else going on. She was a very, very beautiful little girl. And I heard about this second case. Law and Crime has, because I saw the headline that the mother admitted to unaliving her child due to being overwhelmed. And I was just so like, the title, I was just like, what's going on with this? So I watched it, and they play the 911 call. So we're going to move on to case number 2. If y'all have any questions, if y'all have any comments, be sure to place them down in the chat. So the second case comes out of Florida, and Justine Moores, so MROZ, or she was actually a teacher. And one of her former colleagues has actually commented that he, in the past, like he couldn't imagine her doing what she did because she was so patient with their special needs um, children that they had in the classroom when they did work together. I think it was like 8 years ago. So it wasn't recent that he worked with her, but he had worked with her in the past. But a Florida mother and teacher was arrested after she allegedly snapped and unalived her 6-year-old son. Her 6-year-old was diagnosed with autism. His father is on the body cam footage, and this is before the father knows that his son is deceased. And the father's just talking about, she didn't tell him to come and get the child. There was no indication that this was going to happen. It sounds like the parents had 50-50 custody, where the child would transition between both homes. And sometimes for kids on the autism spectrum, sometimes they need stability. And if she was in a place where she was thinking about harming herself, where she's thinking about harming someone else, she needed to reach out for support. She needed to communicate that to somebody so that she could get appropriate help. And it's my understanding that the child did sometimes become aggressive. The father had kind of warned her at their transition that because the child isn't fully potty trained, and he had had a few accidents. And it's my understanding that the child became aggressive with her, and then she took things way too far. And when she called 911, the 911 operator, it's a very painful phone call to listen to, and you don't have to. I will spare you. If you do listen to it, I want you to be prepared, because the level of calm, because she calls 911, and I'm paraphrasing here, she pretty much says, I just did this to my son, and now I'm about to do this to myself. And when the officer arrived, she did have to receive medical attention, but she survived. And with this, the 911 operator, when she says that she's done this to her child, the 911 operator is like, do you think you can do CPR? Like, they're trying to get her to attempt to save him. And she didn't. She was just waiting for the officer. And that's where her calling on herself, because that's where I just wonder if there's a part of her that really wanted to survive this and wasn't like, I wonder about that. And I don't know if she'll attempt a mental health defense, but red rum, take yourself out, is still red rum. And she seemed to understand that you shouldn't do what she did, because she said, I snapped, and she immediately called 911 on herself. And like the whole thing, it's a very, very strange. And she's likely going to have mental health assessments. She's likely going I think a defense lawyer will probably attempt a not guilty by reason of insanity, but I'm not sure because they're probably going to look at her phone. And I would wonder, how long has this been brewing? Have there been any searches? Because sometimes that can lead you more toward premeditation. She's charged with second degree red rum. She's not charged with first. But I think they're going to investigate and get more information. And then we will see what happens in that case. This case comes out of Florida, and Florida is sunshine laws. Like, they are very open with their courts. But it was so painful because I think he was just a little boy. And if she was at the end of her rope, she needed to reach out for help. And some people feel like they're a bad mom. So a lot of people feel like, if I tell somebody that I'm struggling, if I tell somebody I'm drowning, if I tell somebody I can't do this, some people will feel like, does that make me a bad? But doing what she did to her child, that's that's not okay. I try to not use words to judge people, because once again, I'm trying to understand this situation from a psychological perspective, and trying to let people know. And just because somebody's burnt out doesn't mean that they're going to be harmful to themselves or somebody else. They're likely going to try to rule out some type of psychosis, but she didn't say, I heard a voice. The voices won't stop. There was no indication that she was psychotic. It sounds like, in the midst of a situation with the child, because I wish she had just walked away from the situation and just let him, as long as he was safe, or she had called 911. So I worked with very severe, intense cases where a very small child could become aggressive very quickly, and the parents would sometimes, because sometimes they wouldn't be able, because just the child could get really uncontrollable, and we would see what resources and supports we could get in the home, if home-based services were available with their insurance, or even through the school system. The father mentioned that the child's school, because he attended a special school, that they had canceled multiple times. That I guess for some reason they had canceled class multiple times that recently, and I don't know if that played a role in anything. I will definitely be following this case. And I agree. I think she definitely should have reached out to the father. That father, we don't have the body cam of when he found out. They actually have his face redacted in the body cam footage. Um, uh, I can't imagine when he found out uh that his son didn't make it. The child ended up, they ended up pronouncing the child at the hospital. And sometimes they're just waiting on a medical doctor, because sometimes if they arrive to the scene and there are truly no signs of life, but I think sometimes they save the paramedics from having to make that decision, especially when there's a child. They really try to do everything they can if there is any hope, any attempt that they might be able to save a child. Yes, thank you for adding this, Lisa. She said he was banging his head on the floor. Dad would say he would do that when he got stressed. And I've worked with headbangers before, and sometimes we would just put a pillow under their head. I've showed all the ouchies I have, because sometimes they're sensory seeking. They're seeking some, and headbanging can be a form of harm to the person. And sometimes we could find less harmful things. So when I've worked with people with those types of thoughts, we would sometimes get like a rubber band that they could pop, because it would hurt a little, but they're not causing harm. Because with headbanging, I'm worried about your brain. I'm concerned about that. And I don't know if she was yelling, if she's screaming at him. I don't know what was happening that led up to all of this. And a person, just because a person snaps, they say they snap, that doesn't necessarily mean that they'll be found not guilty by reason of insanity. A jury might find her guilty of involuntary manslaughter, but I wonder, because she was a special education teacher, I wonder if some jurors would expect her to have more patience or to have more training or more understanding, because I've sometimes worked with families where if their child engages in certain type of harm, where they learn safe ways to be able to restrict, or because with any type of hold, you have to make sure that the person can breathe and that they're safe and that this isn't causing more harm. I'm not a big fan on like doing holds, but sometimes a person, like if they're hurting themselves and if it's like a hug, and because sometimes you do like the cross the arms, but you just have to make sure that the person's breathing. This isn't medical advice. This isn't advice. We're just talking about general cases and general information like this. My heart really goes out to the family of both of these cases. I do think in the second one, I do think if she pleads not guilty by reason of insanity, I think a lawyer would likely advise her to do that. She might want to take responsibility because it's likely hit her what happened and what she did. But the calmness that she had was eerie. It was very, very eerie. It was very sad. And that's where I say sometimes individuals with mental health diagnoses are more likely to be the victim of a crime than to do a crime. And my heart just breaks for them. Let me know if y'all have any questions, if there are any resources that would be helpful. I love finding resources for the community. The next time I go live will most likely be on Saturday. Yes, I don't think I have anything this Saturday. Yes, I think we're good for this Saturday. Let me know if there are any cases that you all are keeping an eye on or following. I hope y'all had a good 4th of July. It was so hot. So hot. But be kind, don't do crimes, and I will see you all next time. Ooh, wait a minute. So Lisa asked a really good question. So there was another missing person case that's come up. I've seen it all over my Facebook timeline. Nolan Wells. He started out as a missing person case. He was out with a group of friends. We do not know if there's a racial component to this. It's in Mississippi. And in Mississippi, I don't know, like things can happen anywhere, but the family, I believe, have hired an attorney. This will be investigated. It seemed like he didn't have his phone, so I have questions, and so I'm waiting to really speak on it until we have more information. The family they're watching every suggestion, everything that people talk about, because they just want to figure out what happened to their son. And I think the best way to do that is letting the people that were there. It's my understanding his friends, some of them have lawyers. I don't believe in doxing people, like, because we don't know what happened. But this is every mother's worst fear. And so I've talked on here that when I was in undergrad, I went on a research trip with she just so happened to be a white colleague. Well, we ended up getting stuck in the snow, and she kept going down somebody's personal driveway. And we are in a very rural part of Virginia, and I look the way I look, and I was very scared because I didn't know where we were. The house, so I was making all types of assumptions. I don't know. So Virginia is big on pew pews, and so like because we are going on these people's property because her car won't, like, her car just keeps going down, like we're sliding down their like half a mile driveway. And the family was so kind. They were super nice. But the whole time I was very, very scared. And I don't think she could ever understand like how I felt in that situation. And so I understand why people are concerned and why people are bringing up certain things. I don't want to hop on a suggestion until there's more, because it can be more harmful to the family to have all of these suggestions and we don't know what really happened. Let me find the name, because there were some African American twins that died in the mountains. And recently the family came forward because the initial ruling by GBI was that they had unalived themselves. And the family like was very like, they were just like, no, there's no way that they would have done this. And the family had, I think, 2 or 3 independent investigations. There's cell phone data from before the boys even, and they were, I think they were like 19-year-old twins, uh, Quadir and Nazir Lewis. So they were found at the top of a mountain in Georgia, and they had plans to travel out of state. They had plane tickets booked. And so everybody was just like, there's no way that they did this to themselves. But multiple investigations, and the family finally released a public statement saying there was nothing nefarious that happened. They did, and the family is now advocating for mental health. So that's why I just be cautious, and stay grounded and let the people do the investigating. His body was just recovered yesterday, I believe. And so this family's worst nightmare has come true. And I don't want to add to the discourse until we have more information. Now, if we have more information and if somebody is charged with a crime, I will definitely cover it. But until then, I just want to keep an eye on it. Did you hear about the Australian case with the mom who did that to her son? I heard of a case. Uh, I don't remember if it was this one. Let me see. I'm not sure which one you're referring to. But I also heard I forget the country it was in, but an 11-year-old ended up driving a truck and hit and unalived, I think it was 11 monks. And it's my understanding that country, they protect kids under the age of 12, and the child will not face any like criminal charges. But like that case is just absolutely horrific. We will definitely keep an eye on that. But mama bear of one, I always tell my special needs kiddo not to talk to cops directly. Rather, you ask for us or a lawyer. Yes, and that's why I tell any person, you don't have to self snitch. You have the right to remain silent. But sometimes kids on the autism spectrum think like when an adult asks you a question, you're supposed to give them an answer. You're supposed to tell the truth. And in Virginia, there's actually a card. So the clients I work with that are on the spectrum and that are driving age, or if they go out on their own, there's a card that they can hand the police that just notifies the police that they're on the autism spectrum. Just because sometimes their lack of emotions or their rigidity can make people think that they're being defiant when really they're just sticking to their normal routine, and they might be confused in a situation. And an officer can sometimes escalate a situation. And so in Virginia, we have these special cards and that people can give to notify. And so yes. All right. So I appreciate you all. Once again, be kind, don't do crimes, and I will see you all next time. Have a good one. Bye.